Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome into the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star. It's a football Friday. Johnny Venerable, very envious of my co-host, Mr. Bo Brock, live at the home of PHNX Cardinals this fall. BetMGM Sportsbook on the great lawn of State Farm Stadium.
In all its
Mr.
glory.
Bo Brock, how
That's
we living?
right. I'm about a it's probably a good one wood. It's probably a big dog from here, producer Jacob, right? If I tee it up, do you think I could hit State Farm Stadium from here? Yeah, I mean that'd still be a bomb. But
Yeah,
I'm here in all its glory, all its splendor. It's gearing up for a big concert tomorrow. So the great lawn you're starting to see, it resembles a little bit of what you're going to see this fall. But we are absolutely right here at the BetMGM Sportsbook, making bets. Sean DePaz already got some big money on a random Major League Baseball game here on a Friday night in the early summer season. It's fantastic. And we're going to be talking about some Arizona Cardinals football. Who could they potentially add between now and training camp? That roster, Johnny, 80 players right now, 80 men right now, ready to go to war for their new head coach, Jonathan Gannon, his new coaching staff, wear those new uniforms, and there's 10 roster spots left. Who are they going to fill them with? Also, I'll tease this a little bit. I bought my son his first jersey today, went over to the team shop, got some of those new that new drip for the Cards,
nice.
And I'll reveal who it is before the end of this thing.
Perfect. Can't wait for that. I gave some tongue-in-cheek guesses before the show. Hopefully they are not my guesses in real life. Let's churn this roster. Let's talk about the running back position, a position, Bo, that a lot of us were kind of surprised the team, with all of their draft capital, did not invest a day 2 or day 3 pick in a running back class that, let's be honest, like had a bunch of guys go between rounds 2 and 4. And that's what we talked about. It was one of the most robust running back classes we've seen. Of course, 2 backs inexplicably going in the top 12, and Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, Cardinals, you don't have a complimentary back to James Conner, with all due respect to Keontae Ingram, who is a 6th-rounder, who we don't know how the new staff feels about. James Conner celebrates his birthday today. Kudos to James. He's getting a big, fat $10 million check this year. And James has been a stalwart, a great Cardinal. However, the team needs to add, and they're going to add. And so we've been connecting the dots with Kareem Hunt, given the fact that Drew Petzing was with Kareem Hunt for 2 years in Cleveland. Kareem Hunt was the backup to the starter in, of course, Nick Chubb. What is the Cardinals' interest level in Kareem Hunt? I'm told, Bo, I put out some feelers today. They like him. If conversations haven't happened yet, I think they will happen in terms of just reaching out and getting a feeler. Now, does that mean you're going to go and sign Kareem Hunt to a 2 or 3 year deal and mirror the James Conner deal? No. And I think that's more kind of all encompassing of the conversation we're going to have is Kareem Hunt's getting a 1-year contract. How much is that 1 year? TBD. But whether he comes here or back to Cleveland or wherever, LA Rams, he's signing a 1-year deal. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for the Cardinals to bring him in and pair him with Conner. And here's why. And I'll end on this. I think James Conner's in his last year with the Cardinals. I think Kareem Hunt, who is younger, could pivot and parlay a contract this year into a contract next year and be a baton hander to a draft pick next year. I think that would make a lot of sense. Plus, Hunt's a phenomenal receiver out of the backfield. There's just a lot to like if you can be cool with the person and the player, Bo Brock.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you outlined it very well in where he would kind of boost this run game, because as far as bodies in that running back room, they're thin on those. And as much as you want to bet on James Conner, and he'll bet on himself, and he wants the team to do that and kind of carry the load like he did at the end of last season, that people were skeptical that whether or not he could. I think that's where they're going to kind of put all their chips as far as the run game goes. Like if you look at the teams that we've heard from a very credible source, I'll wink at that, right? As far as how they want to play offense, that it's going to look like Cleveland, it's going to look like San Francisco, and it's going to look like Philadelphia in the shotgun. Now, we've heard that from
on third down,
a very reliable source, right?
Yeah.
We'll call them that, right? As far as maybe somebody near and close to the situation. So the Arizona Cardinals, they want to run the football, because if you look at where they were last year, as far as they threw the football 62% of the time, where you look at those 3 offenses that we just mentioned, Cleveland was at 52% of the time, 51% for San Francisco, and 50% of the time with Philadelphia, where JG's coming from. They were basically right down the middle as far as pass run. So if you've got an oft-injured running back, it doesn't seem like that's a very wise way to go about things if you're going to have all these carries. Nick Chubb had over 300 carries last year. I don't expect James Conner, even if he's a workhorse, to come close to the number. He was right around, 160 last year? So you're going to have to have somebody kind of take some of the load here. Now, in Philly, it was Miles Sanders, who was right around 260 carries. And then you had Boston Scott and you had Kenneth Gainwell, who had 100 carries split between them. And, of course, you got a lot of help from the quarterback position as far as carries. You got 160 from Jalen Hurts. I don't think you're going to get that from even when Kyler Murray comes back. You don't want him to take on that type of load. So you need to add somebody to this room. Why not somebody familiar with the system? As I said, there's 10 more spots to fill here. Why not? I mean, you're not stunting anybody's potential growth here. I think you could see what you have, continue to see what you have from Keontae Ingram. But as far as other running backs on this roster, sure, you had that you had the kid out of TCU that you signed as an undrafted free agent, Amari Dermacado. But, I mean, the chance of him making that roster and being a guy that's going to get carries right away are very, very slim. So, I think Chubb at 27, he's not ancient. I mean, I know running backs is a little long in the tooth. He's got some carries under his belt, but I think he would be a perfect guy just because of his familiarity with Drew Petzing's offense.
Yeah, and he hasn't carried a full load really since his rookie year in 2017. He had 272 touches running the football. He's not eclipsed 200 since then. He hasn't come close in each of the last 2 seasons. And I agree with Mike A in the chat. And this is kind of the overarching point I've always had with backs and Kyler Murray. Mike A in the chat saying Kareem is a brick shithouse in the best possible way. Would be a nice 1-2 buckle, your effing it shoe combo. And I think that's the beauty of what James Conner, why he worked early and often with Kyler Murray is Kyler Murray, he's going to play under center. We know that. We're not breaking news here. But like sneaking under center, it may never be an option with Kyler Murray, given his size. That's not me knocking K1. That's just the reality of the situation in the NFL defensive lines. When you lose James Conner in the game and you put a Chase Edmonds or an Eno Benjamin or somebody like that in the backfield and you want to be physical, it is difficult to convert short yardage. Now, we know the Cardinal offensive line is going to be improved. We heard from our friends at PFF say it's one of the most improved units in the NFL, which is great. But I think I would rather have Kareem Hunt and James Conner 3.9 to 4.2 yards per carry, getting ugly and moving the sticks and commanding the football and converting first downs to, well, let's get a home run hitter. I don't think that's what this offense is yet, especially when you potentially got a backup quarterback starting this year, when you've got Kyler Murray, to your point, Bo, probably not going to run hardly at all this year, even when he's healthy. He's going to be very cautious about that. Under center, play action. Hunt is a phenomenal pass catching back, and he's been a backup. He's been a backup since his time initially in Kansas City. So he knows his role. Again, I think you could sell him on there's a spot to be had. There's familiarity here with Drew Petzing, somebody who is well respected. They have a good relationship, I'm told. So again, I know somebody in the chat said, well, he's got character issues, this, that, and the other. They would have to vet that. And I don't know if that's going to be a sticking point. It might very well be. Like,
hasn't it been? It's been 3 seasons removed from those character issues, right? Hasn't he shown that
he's been a model teammate? Yep.
Right. He's shown that, and you're obviously you need to vet that, but you've got somebody who's been close to that situation for the last 2 seasons in Drew Petzing that you would trust. Like, hey, can you rely on this guy? Can this guy be a guy that can come in and be James Conner, either his backup or somebody that's going to be part of a work share? I mean, look at this running back room. Corey Clement, Dermacado, as we mentioned. We've got Ingram, Tyson Williams, and then James Conner, of course, is the lead back there. I mean, that's not enough when you're staring down wanting to be either this balance offense or this rush heavy attack that we've been told they want to be, especially with Kyler Murray coming back from the ACL injury and as they kind of reset things. Because when you're not that talented on defense, that talented on defense to play the time of possession game and to churn some clock and to not put that defense that's maybe undermanned now as it's going to be going into the 2023 season, you can do it such a true service to it by running, first and second down and churning some clock and making sure you're putting yourself in third and manageables, potentially moving the chains. Sure, does that translate to putting up big points on the board? No. I mean, you can stall out, but if you get your guys, if you get Buda Baker breathers, if you get this linebacking core breathers and this undermanned defensive line breathers, like it's going to do you very well. Consider, like I remember, I think Dallas did that a couple of years ago when it was like DeMarco Murray led the league in rushing, and they were coming off one of the historically bad defensive performance, and it just set the defense up for so much more success. Like we saw so many times during the Cliff Kingsbury era, the defense give up a long double-digit play drive, scoring drive, and then the offense go out there and go 3 and out, and then the defense was right back on the field. Like we just can't see, they just can't survive that.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Kingsbury-esque, where it would be the defense needs a break. Let's throw 3 straight passes. Let's burn no clock. How many times last year, Bo, did they have opportunities to put teams away, and they just could not do it? And again, I have no patience right now for don't sign players, tank the season. The Cardinals, I can definitively tell you, Jonathan Gannon, they are not tanking this season. They're going to add players. And I think there's a good chance Kyler Murray is back sooner than people think. So do we want to set Kyler Murray up, whether he's back in late September or late October or early November, to a roster that has a bunch of undrafted players and vet minimum players and guys who have no business start? Like, you're going to need to tune up the team and be competitive and be consistent for when number one comes back into the huddle. You're not going to throw Kyler Murray out there, with all due respect, with the backup offensive line and Keontae Ingram and, Greg Dortch is his number one. We love Greg Dortch, but it's just like, let's get rid of everybody. Let's move off of everybody. That's setting up Kyler Murray not to play this year. Kyler Murray's playing games this year. He's going to come back and he's going to be competitive. We just don't know the timeline. So what you're doing now is imperative to be aggressive, Bo, so that when he does come back, and I'm more or less talking about the offense, the defense, Gannon's in charge. He's in charge of the entire roster, but he's in charge of developing the young players. That's his specialty. The offense, you either have the guys or you don't. And that's why they're adding offensive linemen. You can't go into the season with James Conner and a bunch of guys at running back. You just can't.
No, you can't. Not unless you know something that everybody else doesn't. I mean, unless they watch the tape, and if you look at the numbers won't like strike you with Keontae Ingram as like overly impressive. I mean, I know we saw kind of flashes from him in the sample size that we got, but 27 rushes for 60 yards. That's 2.2 per carry. I mean, that's just not getting it done, albeit behind a patchwork offensive line. But you saw flashes. Maybe they're like, hey, we'll see what this guy has. We'll give him a training camp and preseason's worth to prove himself, to maybe get some secondary carries behind James Conner. But you still do need that safety blanket, just the way that the running back room is right now. They started the season with 5 running backs last year. Remember that? That was just unbelievable to me that they did. But they've got 5 running backs total on their roster, and you would think that they're going to add at least 2 more between now and then. Why not add somebody that's familiar with the roster? Now, I see you guys in the chat. I see you, Z Professor, dropping 2 $10 super chats. Thank you so much. That's adding to my BetMGM gambling fund here. It's going to be unbelievable. But he's saying, I would have given up a second and paid Eckler if we weren't paying Hopkins. Eckler is only getting $6 million this year! ! And then part 2, I get we aren't in win mode right now, so it doesn't make sense. Look, I don't think that they're going to be in the conversation for guys like Eckler. I see Tarek Henry in the chat. It's like they aren't going to. They're not going to traditionally pay that position a premium amount of money. Like I don't think they're into trading any future assets for a running back, and they're not in taking on any more guaranteed dollars or future money beyond this year or next. Like they're going to go with Conner this year. He's going to be RB1, and then if they can complement him with somebody, as you mentioned, like the compensatory picks, it's over. That part of the free agents and off season is done. So just take a flyer on a guy who is low risk and potentially medium reward, and Kareem Hunt.
And you can incentivize it. You can clearly depict and point out, like, we love James. James hasn't been able to stay healthy. James is older. He's a year older, and he's got more mileage on the tires. I would really emphasize, like, hey, Kareem, you could pivot this into another contract with us next offseason. do a 1-year deal this year, make it a 2-year deal next spring. We're going to draft somebody. You're the top dog in 2024. And I'm not knocking James Conner. It's just the logistics of it. He's older and he's got more, wear on the tires. Kareem Hunt, for me, it's just, you start connecting the dots with a lot of these free agents. And I know people want to talk about Ben Jones and some of these centers. They had a chance to address center. They didn't, unless they, by the way, are going to make Jon Gaines a center, which Jess Root pointed this out yesterday. And I don't know why I didn't pick up on this, Bo. They gave Jon Gaines a center number, I think 58, 59. And so that could mean something. They've teased the idea of playing him there. Like, you don't have bodies like that at running back, with all due respect to the backups that you have for James Conner. Hunt, to me, can start you games and help you win games at the running back position. I can't really say that about the rest of that group behind James Conner. And we were concerned about James's usage under Kingsbury being too James Conner dependent. Can you imagine what the usage is going to be ramped up to with all the best, hopes and aspirations under somebody like Petzing, who wants to run the ball more, 15% more, as you pointed out in your tweet? Yeah. That screams get a contingency.
Yeah. And this is not an indictment. This is an attack on JC. I think that since things started to trend in the wrong direction last year, he's actually been one of the few players that you're just like, man, they're lucky to have this guy in James Conner, and then him locked in. And he was transparent as far as his frustrations with last year and wanting to turn the page on last year, and continuing being one of the leaders as, guys start to, Watt retired, Zach Allen leaves via free agency, whatever, is the turnover of this roster. He's been one of the guys you can rely upon. And I think he continues to be that. And you can say, hey, this is your year. This is your year. If you want to get one more contract, put it out there, leave it on the field. Absolutely. But just being realistic as far as you've got to be able to spread you got to be able to throw carries elsewhere. And I just don't think that this roster is equipped right now to do so. So it just makes all the sense in the world to go out there and get somebody. Let me throw you a couple names here, Johnny. Let's immediately scratch off the list. Zeke ain't coming here. There's no reason to. The caliber of player that Monty Osfort described, Zeke doesn't fit that. Leonard Fournette doesn't fit that. And then you start to look at the rest of the guys who might be available. Let's not take a flyer or bring back Kenyon Drake. I know he's 29 years old. Yeah. It's just a very thin pool as far as who would fit. And that's why a guy like Kareem Hunt might be the solution. Like, maybe a Rex Burkhardt. I don't know. Like, I know that doesn't do the same thing that a Kareem Hunt potentially does for you, but these are the types of name, maybe like a Justin Jackson, who last year got some carries at the end of the season with Detroit. You might remember him playing for the Los Angeles Chargers for a couple seasons. And then there's like a Marlon Mack who played for Denver last year, but you remember him wearing a Colts uniform. But that's the type of player that the Cardinals are going to be looking at.
Well, and it also depends on how much do people want to get paid, albeit for 1 year. Kareem Hunt, I think, signed a 2-year contract, an extension in 2020, 2 years, $12 million. And his usage and his production has gone down since then. I think it's conceivable you could get Kareem Hunt for a couple $1 million to come in and back up. Or if he wants to take an incentive-laden deal, you can do that as well. I think in the best case scenario, if you bring him in, Bo, it's almost a 50-50 share with James Conner. It's in my opinion, it's 60-40. And I think that's when you get the best version of James Conner. He keeps his burst. He keeps his explosiveness, right? He stays healthy, knock on wood. That year that he had almost 20 touchdowns, it's because Chase Edmonds enabled you to give him carries. It's because Kyler Murray was mobile with his legs and the threat of his running style was there. And so when we saw James have more attention paid to him, the usage wasn't as great, right? We know that. James Conner, he's getting paid $10 million this year. His best case scenario is probably 800 yards rushing, 400 yards receiving, double digit. No, that's just kind of the lay of the land right now.
How dare you lowball his numbers? How dare you?
I think you could sell Kareem Hunt and James on the partnership because unlike Kingsbury, and this is emphatic, and this is probably not good news for some people that can't stay healthy in the wide receiver room. This is a running offense with tight ends and big physical receivers Look at that motherfucker they just drafted in the third round. That's enormous, right? 6'2", 6'2.5". He's got, a couple nicks on his injury list, but he's enormous. He's physical. Think Donovan Peoples-Jones, right? Amari Cooper. That's what Cleveland did last year. That's what they want to be. Look at San Francisco, who we're comparing to the running game.
It inspires a little bit more hope when you see the little wide receiver screen, right? That you don't have like 5'8" and 5'9" guys trying to block downfield.
Those days are done.
Right.
The only undersized player on this offense is going to be your quarterback. That's it. So, and Kareem Hunt's a big guy as well, as we pointed out. So, Keenan saying Kareem is only worth like $3 or $4 million. I'm going to tell you right now, if they went to him and offered him $4 million, he would take that contract at this point. I just don't know if he's going to get paid $4 million or not. And they are one of the few teams, Bo, that has a surplus of cap space left for this year. I also think at some point, and we've talked about this, if you pivot off of D-Hop this summer, this fall, you need a contingency plan of weapons to be able to supplement. And suddenly, if you don't have D-Hop and there's no running back contingent, there's no Tank Bigsby, right? They didn't take it back. They didn't sign one. That's tough, especially if Rondell's in the training room, with all due respect. Your rookie receiver's got a learning curve.
With all due respect.
Hollywood Brown and Greg Dortch are
right? Just spitting in his face.
You help your quarterback, get him help. Kareem Hunt, I think we're both in agreement. I think they have interest. It would be in their best interest to get him signed and to help supplement the carries, Bo.
Yeah, it just makes too much sense. It just makes it's due to the lack of a move in the draft. And really only signing one as far as an undrafted free agent, and not having somebody who is an up and comer from the previous draft. It's not blocking anybody. It's not blocking anybody from getting carries. That's the most important. Like, I think everybody's on board with the youth infusion, right? Everybody's on board with maybe sacrificing, taking some rookie in just first couple year lumps in just so it will benefit this team in the long term and in the future. It's just like at that position, like there isn't anybody that you're saying, well, hold on. If you sign Kareem Hunt, you're blocking this guy from blossoming.
Great point.
So, I mean, if they did take a Tank Bigsby, if they did take a Charbonnet, but there was just, I don't think anybody anticipated, I don't think you can, the run early, the fact that there was two off the board, within the top 12, and then you started to see the running back dominoes start to fall, and just Monty just wasn't in a position to where he felt like he could pull the trigger on a running back. So now you just look for a 1-2 year, very little unguaranteed money, as you said, very incentivized contract for a guy with the familiarity of Drew Petzing and Yelda Froholt and what the offense is going to look like.
Yeah,
and I say Froholt there is a maybe a little foreshadowing on our conversation here in just a few minutes.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the quarterback situation, backups to Kyler Murray, who could start the season. First, I want to tell you guys, Circle K, let me just tell you, I went to Circle K the other day, and I scooped up a haul of snack selections. By the way, I'm in Maricopa. There's not a lot out here. There are a couple grocery stores that are, let's just call them household names. Inflation has not been kind to those establishments, Bo Brock. And so I'm paying as much on these what are supposed to be discount grocery stores as I am at some of these premier places. It doesn't make sense until I go to Circle K. I went in there with my 8-year-old. We loaded up Polar Pops, iced coffee. I grabbed a couple adult beverages, right? Some snacks. We loaded up to watch the Diamondbacks that night. I'm going to tell you what, I paid a fraction of what I would at some of these other places, on top of the fact it's premium gas at not a premium price, at a convenience to you. Make sure you're not missing out on all the great stuff that our friends at Circle K have to offer right now. Text PHNX to 31310 to join their SMS subscriber club. I'm a member, and you get a buy one, get one free 32-ounce Polar Pop. I'm a unsweetened iced tea kind of guy. I like to double fist them. Head to circlek.com/store locator. circlek.com/store locator, Bo, to find the Circle K nearest to you.
Just fueled up at the Circle K by the PHNX Sports Studios downtown. Saw our good friend Derek Montilla on the screen. He graced us with his presence.
That's great.
On the screen saying, "Hey, I'm Derek from PHNX D-backs," and I said, "Where the hell's Johnny? Where the hell's me? That's all I want to see right now." No offense, with all due respect, as
with
Johnny
all
says.
due respect,
but it was great to hear a familiar voice as I gassed up. Always fun to gas up our boys over at PHNX D-backs, and always fun to gas up our friends over at Four Peaks, which you can find in the beer cooler at any Circle K. I'm drinking a Wow Wheat out here at BetMGM, and really supporting our friends over at Four Peaks, as you should as well. Check them out on social at Four Peaks Brew and at Four Peaks Pug. Get the pub, not pug, not like the small dog with breathing issues. Pub. Get all the latest on Arizona's premier craft brewery. You know, they've got the Four Peaks tap room in Chase Field, and they're teaming up with our friends over at PHNX D-backs as well. They got the Four Peaks 4 seats. One lucky winner will get 4 seats to an upcoming Diamondbacks game. Tickets come with D-Bucks. So grab some food, ice cold Wow Wheat or Hop Knot, and enter going at Four Peaks Brew on Instagram. There's a link in the bio on their Instagram account. So check that out. They're also supporting local teachers as well. They're doing great things. Check out all their events coming up as well at fourpeaks.com/events. Of course, you got to be 21 or older to drink their incredible beer, but you don't have to check out what events are going on. Enjoy the great food there at Four Peaks Brewery in Tempe.
As we continue to pick the carcass of the free agent market, Nick Foles was released by the Indianapolis Colts. I don't think that's somebody the Cardinals have on their radar. But, Bo, we were tagged in a couple options today, one in particular out of Washington. I'm sure you saw this.
Yeah.
So Washington cut their starting center. He's been nicked up, last couple of seasons, but
last two seasons,
they've cut their starting center. And then, of course, everybody wants to come and say, well, the Cardinals need a starting center. Why not sign this individual? But to your point, instead of going the way of, help me with his name, I'm not even sure what the Washington center is called.
Chase Roullier.
Instead of signing Chase, they kind of signed their own version of Chase in Yelda Froholt. Yeah. That's the same kind of caliber of player. Washington drafted somebody. They're more comfortable with the younger player. So again, Yelda, Chase, they're basically one and the same. The difference is Yelda's not coming off a major injury.
Right. He's, as far as Roullier, he's going to be 30 years old. Yeah. If it was the first injury that he suffered in 2021, it was an ankle injury. You know, when you talk about, you look at it, it's not like a ligament issue. But then he had the MCL tear last year, and it's just like, okay, it's going to be a physical position. I know offensive linemen deal with knee injuries all the time, but I mean, do you really want to the what is it? The definition of insanity as far as you want to roll the dice again on another knee injured center like they did last year, and you didn't see Rodney Hudson barely suit up for this team last year when he was dealing with that knee injury. So I just don't think it makes sense for the Arizona Cardinals to chase after a Chase Roullier, despite the early success he had as a 6th-round pick. You look at the Pro Football Focus numbers and take those as you will, but pretty decent, pass blocking and run blocking numbers, but he just hasn't been able to stay on the playing field. And it's going to be important, I think, for this team to stay relatively healthy as they just are undermanned as far as just with talent on the roster. You can't have a guy that's you can't rely upon to get out there and start the majority of the games. And I just don't think Chase Roullier gives them that opportunity. I think that they feel like Yelda Froholt is going to be a guy that's going to be in a position. He's going to obviously, we follow him on Instagram, and this is a guy he's in the lab like my co-host Johnny all the time, working out, getting ready for this season. I think he's probably gearing up to take on an opportunity that he's never presented itself for him coming out of Arkansas in this league. To really grasp a position and hold on to it. So it's going to be a good opportunity. I don't think that they would just like in the 11th hour say, okay, well, we're going to sign Chase Roullier. Here's the job for you because you have a little bit of starting experience and you just make a little bit more sense.
Well, and Froholt has a relationship with the Cardinals' new strength and conditioning coach who came from Cleveland. I was watching.
They look like two competitors in the strongest man.
They look like they could also be related. I was watching Yelda's Insta story today. He's doing burpees in his garage. Now, because
were you watching that while you were doing burpees in your own garage?
No, I was watching it when I was drinking my iced tea from Circle K.
You were eating your chips and sucking down iced tea.
Hey man, it's Friday. It's a party. I don't discount. Here's what somebody made a great point in the chat. Michael, Froholt only needs to be better than Billy Price. I would say the availability piece is underrated for a center. You can stay healthy for 17 games and there's consistency and continuity, especially if you're Yelda and you're balancing, rotating chairs at guards and tackles, depending on what's going on with Paris and DJ and everybody else, Josh Jones, Will Hernandez coming back from injury. And then the Jonathan Gaines factor, I think, is huge because what if this kid just forces his way onto the field? Like, where are you going to play him? The Cardinals have an interesting surplus of talent on the offensive line. I don't think there's a liability on the offensive line right now. I don't know if they have any elite players. Actually, Paris Johnson Jr. is going to be the closest, but he's not there yet. I would say, though, it's a steady unit that's not going to embarrass itself this fall because I think, Bo, to our point in the earlier segment, they're just not going to be asked to do as much. They're not going to be asked to have 60 dropbacks in a game. They're going to be asked to wear defensive lines down with the run game because they've got the confidence of Drew Petzing that he's going to put them in great positions to succeed. And I know Cleveland invested a lot in their offensive line. So you go back and watch Chubb run with Jacoby Brissett and Boots and play action. They've got Jedrick Wills and all those quality offensive linemen. The Cardinals want to get to that point. And I think by taking Paris Johnson Jr. and maybe throwing a couple lottery tickets at the Froholts of the world in free agency, maybe they can get there. But I feel like this unit is in such much better hands that they do not have to go out. Let me emphasize this. Sign a Ben Jones, which could be Rodney Hudson 2.0. Sign this guy, Chase from Washington. They're not in that desperate state anymore. Give me a guy in his mid-20s that's, to your point, hungry for an opportunity to come in and compete. If he gets beat out, he gets beat out. Low expectations. But if he sticks, it's like, this kid could be eligible for an extension. He's got ties to Petzing and the strength and conditioning coach. And I think they hired one other assistant coach from Cleveland. Like, there's momentum for him to stick. Now, if he's terrible, that's a different story.
Right. And the good thing about the center position for the Cardinals, it's no longer you're going to be 90% in the shotgun and having to throw the ball back as far as they did, right, to give those shotgun snaps that we've seen even from when Rodney Hudson was healthy. He'd throw a ground ball or he'd throw a ball 10 feet over Kyler's head. We saw that with all the centers, whether it was Max Garcia or who was the one guy that we were talking about at the end of training camp last year that it emerged as the backup center that held it for like 2 games until they signed Price.
He got hurt. What was his name? He was like in all those viral videos they took from the season before and over the summer. He was like, we've got two starting centers on the roster. I can't remember that dude's name either. Yeah, he was awful. Yeah. Well, here, I'll look it up while you continue to talk.
But yeah, I mean, so they're going to be snapping the ball from under center, and that takes away some of the issues. And that automatically makes things a little bit easier for the center. But Froholt, if you look at the numbers,
John Harlow was his name.
John Harlow, my God, how easily we forget, right?
They literally put him in, and they had to take him out right away because it's like we're going to
turnstile.
Kill.
Yeah, you can become a turnstile, and it's just meet me at the quarterback for the opposing defensive linemen and pass rushers. We forget about you. And Price came in, and Price had some of the same issues. You look at the same grades, so it can't be to agree with the person in the chat. I forgot who was, just like it was Sean Harlow, but it was a great point here as far as it can't be any worse, right? And I think Froholt, with the consistency, I think there's a lot of continuity across this offensive line, which is important for that group. It really is. And it's to merge what Petzing's coming from Cleveland and what they want to do here in Arizona with the guys who are here who are used to playing with Kyler Murray. I think it's a good mix. Good, like you said, not great, but it's a good spot to be. They flooded it with numbers. And we'll see if they add anybody in between now and then. But it seems like they're going to go with like 15 or 16 guys at the offensive line position and see and have one of the hottest just competitions of training camp and preseason.
How didn't I pick this up on this too? It's like, so Yelda Froholt, he's only been in the league since 2019, right? So he's only had 4 years in the NFL. He was drafted by the Patriots in the 4th round.
Yeah.
While Monty Ossenford was there, by the way. Yeah. So it's like Monty Ossenford probably did extensive research on this kid, went to Arkansas, went to a big boy program, was a real draft pick, And then he bounced around from New England. Then he went to Cleveland and had a cup of coffee and impressed enough to where now he's going to, I mean, this is really his big opportunity. He's gone to 2 organizations. He's had a marginal sense of success. He had 6 games started last year for a Cleveland team that was feisty. They were competitive, but he had never started a game before. He was drafted in 2019. And then in 2020 and 2021, he didn't start any games. I'm pretty sure only played special teams. So like, this is okay. We're going to rip the Band-Aid off. Either you're a journeyman NFL player or you're a starter. And we're going to find out pretty quickly.
I mean, Froyo is exactly like frozen yogurt. It's never going to be ice cream. It's never going to be true elite status. It's going to be fine. You know, if you're trying to cut back calories while you're trying to enjoy a nice frozen treat. Yeah, sure. It's serviceable. If he can be that, but he's never going to be a legit, ice cream sundae or a Blizzard or anything more exotic than that. No.
Can I tell a quick story? So I
went, if you will.
Yeah, it's an ice cream story real quick because it's Friday. We're having fun. You're having fun at BetMGM. I'm very jealous. We drove into Gilbert last weekend, and everybody probably is going to crush me in the chat. I'm a novice to Arizona eateries, but there's what's that ice cream place in downtown Gilbert? So they do dipped cones there in this little ice cream shop.
Jacob, you're going to have to help us out. Do you know what he's talking about?
And they do dip cones, and they have the signature one that we kept seeing people walk with. It was like prickly pear ice cream dipped in lime, what do you call it? Dip. So it's like, you have a dip cone from like Dairy Queen with so it was lime dip. It was the most incredible thing I've ever had. The lime was like,
you thought we were going to attack you over this for not knowing?
Yeah, because I'm trying to share.
That sounds pretty amazing.
I'm trying to share my outlook with people because I'm a true Arizonian now.
Yeah.
Because I drove. It was a special occasion. We drove out of Maricopa. God help us. And we had some real food, and it was great in Gilbert. So yeah, that's my ice cream story.
The brave jaunt down Dead Cow Road.
It's not Cold Stone. I'm not David Collins, Jordan P.
God bless you. Unbelievably, like mom and pop shop. Have you ever heard of it? It's I can't remember. Is it Dairy Queen?
Yeah. It was excellent though, and
but you don't know the name of it.
They also served food, and it was a hole in the wall. You couldn't sit down. But I just was taken back by green dipped cones. It blew my mind. So
and the green was what again? It was like key lime.
It was lime, but then the ice cream was they called it prickly pear. And I'm not a big fruit guy, but it was excellent. My wife and I split a cone. It was very good. It was better than Yelda Froldhold's frozen yogurt. It was the real deal. It was like Rodney Hudson in his prime, not Rodney Hudson in the training room.
It was a Lyle Sendeline. It was the old consistent. Just in AZ.
It's something the Cardinals have never had. It was an all-pro at center.
Right. That's for sure.
That's what we're striving for. It. Hopefully, the Luke Whippler one day of the world.
I'm not buying into the jersey number conspiracy.
I saw you roll your eyes at that earlier. Yeah. Is that because you didn't figure that out? Is that why you're rolling your eyes?
No, it's not at all. What helped me with this one is just looking at the snaps that Jon Gaines took even in college at center. He just didn't. He's played center very little in his career, 122 snaps. That was in 2021. He played none last year. He played mostly at right guard. I like the versatility, but handing over the keys to the center position, I think he's pretty far from that.
Yeah, and that's fair. And listen, the Cardinals, beggars can't be choosers. If he's good, you play him in his best position. And that's something that the prior regime didn't understand is, hey, let's take an edge rusher like Hassan Reddick. Let's make him play out of position. It's like everybody coming into this draft season. It's like Peter Skoronski. Don't play him at tackle. You got to play him at guard. Well, he played tackle in college. So if Jonathan Gaines is a guard, keep him a guard. Because right now, Paris Johnson Jr. is going to play tackle even if he starts at guard to begin the season. Will Hernandez is, he's on a 2-year deal, but he could be cut at any minute. So you make way.
Do you feel bold enough? Do you feel bold enough is like a lime dip boldness, like to forecast the offensive line right now?
I'll tell you what it is. Sure. But first I want to tell you guys about Octane Raceway and Maverick. So I mentioned preferred outings on the weekend. Octane Raceway near the top of my list. So while I can't get my wife near a go-kart, we can do a ton of other stuff there. And by the way, if you haven't checked out their race car track, it is fantastic. We did it with our team earlier this year. Frank Sanders took down the gold, but they've got axe throwing. They've got arcade games, tons of stuff. Book your graduation parties, by the way. I would have loved to have my graduation party at a cool place like Octane Raceway. We just had a couple card tables sat out. Wasn't even close to what they got going on. If you're not at BetMGM Sportsbook, go to Octane Raceway tonight. Cinco de Mayo, they've got $5 margaritas, $5 off 2 taco trios featuring delicious ABQ and short rib tacos. Hello. And then those $15 sweet Mexican beer buckets. And then tomorrow they're actually hosting, Bo, I don't know if you know this, UFC 288, which is fantastic. One of the hottest tickets in town. Be sure to reserve your table at Octane because I'm guessing those are going to be gone pretty quickly. And then next weekend, do right. Mother's Day brunch, your spouse, your significant other, your mom, take them out to Octane Raceway in Maverick. From scratch brunch, half off mimosas. Who doesn't love that? Until 2 p.m. Get a free $10 game card with every brunch purchase. Plus, all moms get a free axe throwing and a free race with one paid guest. That's our friends at Octane Raceway in Maverick.
I mean, them doing the true service to a couple fathers out here that just figured out that Mother's Day is next Sunday.
Yes, you're welcome, everybody.
Big thank you to Octane. And also, I'm going to say a big thank you in a few minutes, because I'm going to be outside on the great lawn out here at the BetMGM Sportsbook. I got my Shady Rays. When you come out here this fall, when we're going to be out here for all the tailgates for the Arizona Cardinals home and away games, you're going to want some Shady Rays as well. So why not take advantage of one of the best just deals of the season? Get 50% off when you buy 2 or more pairs. These are the Timbers. These are unbelievable. These will trump any of those big brand sunglasses that you think you love, but you don't love them as much as you like these Shady Rays. Like, I've got some sunglasses that I spent way too much money on just collecting dust right now in my car. They're in there just cooking in my truck. Not like these. These bad boys are cooling off because they're on my face most of the time. They should be on your face as well. Take advantage of this deal right now. It's exclusive for our listeners and our viewers. Go to Shady Rays on their website, shadyrays.com. Check out the best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com. Use the code PHNX for 50% off when you buy 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Get them for yourself. Get them for your friends. Check out what 250,000 people are giving 5 stars, a 5-star rating. It's Shady Rays on the internet. Get yourself a pair or 6. They're unbelievable.
Gary in the chat, I'm still high on a healthy Marquise Hayes. Absolutely. And Lasita Smith, who's a friend of this program, they're going to be in the mix. They're under contract. They were late round picks next year. Love for one of those 2 guys, if not both, to surprise. And again, we're talking about maybe 8 to 10 quality options. And we're going to tell you right now who we think. Let's give our best guess, Bo. Starting offensive line, September, whatever, opening Sunday in the NFL. I'll go first. I think DJ Humphries, basically he's in a contract year. His guaranteed money is all pushed to this year. You would assume the Cardinals are going to pivot next offseason. He's auditioning for other teams and trying to leave on a high note with this franchise. I think he starts the year at left tackle, and then that means Paris Johnson Jr. is starting the year at left guard, at least temporarily. I think Humphries is leaving that seat warm for Paris Johnson Jr., whether it's in October, November, the passing of the baton will happen. Assuming DJ can get back and healthy. And I'm with you. I think you've talked me into it. Yelda Froholt is going to be the starting center for this team in September. Will Hernandez is going to be the starting right guard. Kelvin Beachum is going to be your starting right tackle. But I'm going to say 4 out of those 5 have big fat asterisks next to them. They go down, somebody's going to come up and steal a spot. So that's my group right now. Josh Jones, a very talented tackle who hasn't really been given his due, is waiting in the wings potentially at right tackle. I mean, it would not surprise me at all, Bo, if we fast forward and it's Paris Johnson Jr. and Josh Jones in a contract year starting some games down the stretch.
Yeah, I feel pretty comfortable at the tackle position. Where the most of my concern is the interior of that offensive line. And I think if they can maybe strengthen that and they can find some legitimate guys to kind of keep the interior pressure off of Kyler Murray when he's healthy, it's tough because when you got those big hog mollies coming down on you, a lot of beef from the opposing defensive line and their size. And obviously Kyler Murray, 5'10", it's tough to see over those guys. And when the pressure's right in your face, it just pretty much crushes any kind of play you want to run. So if guys like Lascitus or, even Hayes, if Hayes can immediately step in, or if Paris Johnson can be one of those guys to help out with Will Hernandez, I think there's more that you'd like to see from pass pro. We know what he can do in the run game. if they can kind of become more legit in the interior of this offensive line. And when was like the last time you could say that?
We'd probably say 2015, the year you signed
Mike
Micah
Iupati?
Iupati.
Yeah.
And he was great early on. That line just mowed
Yeah.
people down. But it's been a finesse offensive line. Now here's what I will say. When we talked about this earlier, blocking players and why Kareem Hunt wouldn't do that. The curious move to re-sign Kelvin Beachum and give him a 2-year contract, and he's making basically the vet minimum. And I know Kyler and Kelvin supposedly have buried the hatchet, but it just kind of poses a question, Bo, is like, is Kelvin Beachum, do you think a guarantee to be on the team or at least be a starter on the team? Because, I mean, if you're trying to get your most athletic group out there, I mean, I love Kelvin Beachum, but he's older, right? And I think that was one of the moves in the offseason. People scratched their head. It didn't bother me because of the amount of money they didn't commit. And you had to hedge your bet that you weren't going to get one of the top tackles. Well, you've secured that top tackle now. Is there any reality in which Kelvin Beachum isn't starting in September, you think?
Yeah, I think that there's a reality where he's not starting, where if he's not on this roster, I would be shocked.
Okay.
As far as the value that he brings that transcends the playing field, and I know some people buy too much into that, but as far as what he does with younger players, what he did with Lecitus last year, I think it's very valuable, especially with a young coaching staff and a young roster. I think that Kelvin Beachum could teach these guys how to be pros. I think that him in the locker room only bodes well for a guy like Paris Johnson and a guy like Jon Gaines. And like if you cut him post June 1st, and that's, into training camp. And I don't know when things as far as when things kind of kick in for him, but he's got $2 million against dead cap this season and then another $1 million in 2024. So I just don't, that's not a ton like relative to the cap. If things go way far south and there's another incident where he's saying things he shouldn't about this team and he's not bought in, which I doubt. He seems to be the consummate professional. It's not something that you wouldn't mind absorbing, but I see a reality where he could still be on this roster and still not be your starting right tackle or left tackle or wherever. It's really going to be fascinating to see how they just approach this in really trying to stay true to their word as far as keeping this like a true competition.
Yeah, and I think you face a kind of a cold, dark reality if you were to remove Kelvin Beachum from the equation of hedging too much confidence in DJ Humphries. And again, Humphries looks fantastic, but he's still not healthy yet. And I think there's a much better chance that Paris Johnson Jr. is starting at left tackle than right tackle to begin the season. I mean, Humphries is just, his body has failed him more often than not. And where you look at Kelvin Beachum at 33 years old,
I don't know more often than not. I mean, it's just you're dealing with a back.
Let's just say, he's had 30 inconsistencies in his career with the Cardinals. Early in his career, he could not stay healthy. And then he had the renaissance under the second regime, and he played well under Cliff Kingsbury. But yeah, to your point, to be fair, I mean, he missed a bunch of games last year, and he was not healthy the year before. I mean, he was really struggled in, toward the season finale against Seattle. And wasn't available against Dallas when Kyler Murray went on national TV and beat Dallas. So I think hedging your bet too much with DJ Humphries is not a smart move.
Right.
And so it would not surprise me if Paris is playing left and Beachum is playing right. And I also feel like, again, like Kelvin Beachum at 33 is a commodity. Is a commodity as long as he wants to continue playing because he didn't miss any time last year. Why would you immediately try to gut a position room that is a strength? The Cardinals don't have a ton of strength on their roster. I think it's fair to say like their tackles are good. They have good tackles. They've got a solid group of starting tackles. I remember when this team would trot out 7th round picks midseason and undrafted guys. You can't be a liability up front, and they are working their way against that. So I don't think there's any scenario in which they would get rid of Kelvin Beachum, but I do think it's in their best interest to try to get Paris Johnson Jr. a tackle at some point this year. So if the season's lost, I would look at about midseason let's make a shift because we got to get him reps there.
Yeah, lots of intelligent football talk going on in the chat. Jalen Blair say Beachum not guaranteed to start. In my opinion, I think they signed him to make sure they had great depth. We've got Michael coming in the chat saying he's got his prediction. I go Johnson Jr., so he's going Paris. He's going Josh Jones. He's going DJ Humphries and then Beach. I don't know if that's just as far as his tackle position goes, Michael. But if you
maybe his depth.
Yep, and then you got Dana jumping in here as far as breaking down vertical zone rushing attack and what Cleveland and Petzing was running. It says it involves a lot of pulling guards and centers in the run game and play action zone runs, opening holes for cutbacks. So just lots of good stuff in there from the chat. Big thank you to everybody tuning in today as far as in contributing to the chat. It's going to be fascinating to see how that falls, kind of how those dominoes kind of fall. And then it's so odd. It's like, and we rarely talk about this. Obviously, we talk about the main character here in Kyler Murray and what his timeline is. But as far as the quarterback position, it's pretty crazy how unresolved or what the plan is at the quarterback position as we sit here post draft. I know it's Cinco de Mayo, but what is going on with the quarterback position? You've got 4 guys on your roster, right? You've got McCoy, you've got David Blau, you've got Jeff Driscoll, 4 guys that are going to be active for training camp and preseason, and then the rookie Clayton Tune. I mean, what do you make of this?
I think they like that it's uncertain because I think they know. Let's turn the clocks back about 2 months. We just gotten back from the NFL Combine, and we had known for some time, well, they're going to sign a backup quarterback, right? Colt McCoy's on the roster. We have heard since then, Cardinals didn't disclose all of his injuries last year. He's been beat to shit. He's doing color commentary this spring. Basically, he's got, with his best interest in mind, 1 foot out the door. He's not throwing yet. Bo is at practice. He hasn't begun throwing. They were actively negotiating a contract or talking numbers with Joshua Dobbs. We had sourced that. They were talking to Joshua Dobbs. Why were they talking to Joshua Dobbs? Because Petsy knew him from his brief time in Cleveland. Joshua Dobbs projects very much Jacoby Brissett-esque. Incredibly bright, late 20s, came in and basically outplayed Malik Willis last year, right? And so the Cardinals were interested. And I think probably missed an opportunity because he ended up going where? To Tennessee?
Back to Cleveland.
I'm sorry. And he didn't get paid very much. So did they lose interest? We're not sure. But Bo brought up a great point off air, and I'll let you articulate it. But I don't think the door on Joshua Dobbs on this roster is over yet.
No, and it shouldn't be, because as a player of Josh Dobbs' caliber, they're never, I guess, resting until the final roster is complete. And even then, they don't know if what their football future is. But as of right now, if you look at the Cleveland Browns depth chart, Joshua Dobbs is the backup to Deshaun Watson. But they invested a 5th round pick to pick right after Clayton Tune in the 2023 NFL draft. In the top 6 of the 5th round, they take Dorian Thompson-Robinson. So, and they've got Kellen Mond on the roster. So they've got 2 youngsters that could immediately outplay a guy like Dobbs, who, the Titans took a flyer on, signed him off the practice squad from Cleveland to even start games for them last year. That's why I think the door is ajar as far as Josh Dobbs wearing an Arizona Cardinals uniform, just depending on how things go and transpire throughout training camp, because Cleveland, they have to decide, are they going to be a team that's going to carry 2 quarterbacks or 3? Because if they decide to hang on, if DTR, they try to sneak him on the practice squad, he's going to get scooped up. Joshua Dobbs, probably not the case unless it's the Arizona Cardinals or somebody else that was in on him. So there's just a lot of competition. I think you've got, Watson's got his spot secure because every single dime of his contract is guaranteed, right? And he's Deshaun Watson. And then beyond him, there's going to be a pretty heated competition for his backup. And then we'll see what they decide as far as carrying how many quarterbacks they're going to carry. And then you look at the Arizona Cardinals, if Dobbs has a familiarity with Petzing, and he had a lot of success in Cleveland in the preseason last year, and he's got familiarity with the GM, and Monty Ossenfort was the one who brought him to Tennessee to start some games down the stretch when they were trying to keep their head above water in a playoff race, and they couldn't, right? But what he does, his skill set just matches what Petzing wants to do offensively. You've got to have some athleticism to be able to move around in order to make this thing work. and I think Dobbs has that. And it's really interesting because we were preparing for Josh Dobbs to be potentially signed by the Arizona Cardinals. I watched some tape from Dobbs, and then when I watched Clayton Tune, I see a lot of similarities between Clayton Tune and Joshua Dobbs. The only problem is Clayton Tune is coming from the American Football Conference, and Josh Dobbs was playing NFL football. So there's a big discrepancy there. There's a large margin that he has to kind of bring down here as far as his game translating from playing for the Cougars to playing in the NFL and the NFC West.
I think the difference is Cleveland, who is trying to be competitive, trying to make the postseason. That's why you signed Deshaun Watson. Probably carries 2 quarterbacks on game day. Cardinals can carry 3 quarterbacks. They don't give 2 shits about that. They can, because Kyler Murray at some point, you're not cutting Tune, and then you need somebody else. And if you think about fast forwarding to when Kyler Murray is not around,
here's where I'll push back. I think that this organization now has the ability to diagnose their position rooms, especially the quarterback position, to where, like last year, they carried 3, didn't they? Right. And then they made the decision to cut Trace McSorley and then put him back on the roster. Like, they're not going to carry a guy just because they, like, what was the point of carrying McSorley last year? Like, they learned way down the road that he couldn't play. And I hope that the current front office and coaching staff is like, hey, looks good in preseason, but let's be realistic. Is he gonna help us win games when the ammo's really flying and it's real?
I think the overwhelming consensus would be that Cardinal fans, if they don't sign a quarterback and Kyler's not ready, to have it be an open competition with Clayton Tune and Colt McCoy and David Blau. And I think that I'm in the camp of, if that's the group, then just play the rookie, play the kid in the 5th round. I've seen enough Colt McCoy. I know what he can't do. And David Blau, he played fine at the end of last year, but there's just, in my opinion, very minimal upside. Yeah. I don't see the harm unless he's awful. And if he's an unmitigated disaster, we'll know because of the preseason. But if all things are equal, you would rather see Clayton Tune play snaps before Kyler Murray. But I know I'm reaching here because they could conceivably sign somebody else. I have no desire, zero, to watch Colt McCoy play quarterback for this team again. And that's not a knock on Colt McCoy. It's just that time has passed. He was a product of the prior regime, right? And that time is done. He's older. He's immobile now. Okay. He's hurt. There is no benefit to having Colt McCoy be your starter outside. He's just a good guy. I'd much rather see what they have in the younger kid. And if he's terrible, then you pivot. But then that's on you for not having contingency plan in the spring.
Well, here's what they can do, I think, to help out the situation. I love the chat. AJ saying Clayton Tune is a good QB. Classy Nasty just saying tune me up. We actually have a video of the Cardinals coaching staff, Jonathan Gannon, Andrew Petzing, breaking down Clayton Tune's game here on our YouTube channel, PHNX Sports, and of course PHNX_Cardinals on Instagram. It's there as well. But when you've got Tune, I think what they could do help him out a little bit is maybe not have him compete against like 4th and 5th string guys.
Yeah.
Like doesn't get like the Trace McSorley benefit where he can go out there and ball against those guys, because that doesn't help them evaluate him. Like, get him in early, like maybe even let him start a preseason game. Like, what's the point of seeing Colt McCoy or David Blau start a preseason game?
Let him prepare like a starter all week and see how he does.
I'm a little hesitant to say that he could start week 1 for this team. I just don't think that's realistic.
He played like 5 years of college football.
I know. And that's what Chris Sims was saying about. So Chris Sims was kind of asked the question, not with Florio, not on that trash show, but as far as
different show
on Sims' Buttoned Up podcast, he was asked by his co-host, who's not Florio, who's the Brock Purdy of the class? Because that's the trendy thing. It's like, who's the guy that's going to be a late round quarterback that could emerge even his rookie season? And he said that he identified Clayton Tune as that guy. Is that putting, unrealistic or too much pressure on the shoulders of a 5th round pick out of Houston? Probably. And Brock Purdy had the benefit of learning a system, practicing every day, not having any pressure on his shoulders for the bulk of a season, and then coming in the last 6 weeks of the regular season and then balling out. So there's a big difference between starting in like week 12 like Purdy did and then Tune starting week 1.
Well, and then the Niners roster, just a smidge different than the
A
Cardinals
bit
roster
better,
as
yeah.
it stands. Just a little bit. So he was at Houston for a half decade. I'm not, that's not hyperbole. He was there from 2018 to 2022. He attempted 1,500 passes in that offense, right? He threw 104 touchdowns. And again, that's a lot of scheme, right? But he's got a big arm. His yards per completion was consistently over 8 yards per attempt for his career. And his completions, he almost completed 1,000 passes. He started 27 games over the last 2 seasons. Like, there's enough meat there that I would not have an issue seeing him for a game or two before Kyler Murray came back. I'm with Michael in the chat. Like, the college experience,
It was the American
Conference for America.
Come
Because
on, bud.
we are American with Clayton Tune.
You bang the table for the Power Fives. You bang the table for the SEC players.
Hey, my preference was
You're
DTR.
skeptical on anybody that's not in the Southeastern
later.
Conference. And now you want a guy from the American. Let's take a look at who Houston played last year. Let's just take a look at who Clayton Tune was tuning up.
I'm not saying he's a franchise quarterback. I know.
I understand that, but you want him to play real. You want to play against
if this
Aaron
is the
Donald.
Group I have these 3 quarterbacks. This is it. Then I'm picking
UTSA, Texas Tech, Kansas. By the way, they lost to Tech. They lost to Kansas. They beat Rice. They lost to Tulane. Memphis, Navy, South Florida. Listen to this murderer's row. SMU, East Carolina, Tulsa, and Louisiana in the Sun Belt.
I want to see him play.
I do. I agree too. Like there's going. I'm calling it right now. I mean, it's inevitable.
Who's starting?
There's going to be a Clayton Tune performance in the preseason, and people are going to be like, "Oh my God, I think he's the. I think he's Tom Brady." I'm not.
How dare you?
I'm just. That's going to happen. It's happening. It's going to be on my Twitter timeline. It's going to be there. People are going to buy in so much that they think that he's going to be the next late round discovery.
Clayton Tune and David Blau are only like 3 years apart. And I would argue, I know Clayton Tune's played more football lately than David Blau has. David Blau started a couple games. Do you have any desire to watch Colt McCoy play quarterback for this team?
No, but at the same time, it's about putting your young players in position for success, and it's just throwing them to the flames that early, I think could be detrimental to his development. And I think you legitimately have a guy who could be the future backup for this team, and you could ruin that by throwing him out there too early.
That's fine. Can I be kind of an asshole though? Can I be an asshole and just say, hey, his development is not my priority. I just want to see the kid thrown out there. If I ruin a 5th round pick's development, whoopsies, Kyler Murray's back, and by Halloween, I'm looking to be interesting in the early part of the season. You know who's not interesting? David Blau and Colt McCoy.
Yeah.
You know who's super interesting in the best possible way though is our friends at More Furniture, Bo.
Interesting, comfortable, gorgeous as far as just the designs. It's unreal. If you're looking to maybe set off your living room, your dining room, your bedroom, your kids' room, your office, your entertainment center, More Furniture's got the deals for you. Unbelievably high quality furniture for a great price. You can't find a better deal in the Valley than what we have over at More Furniture. And they have the white glove delivery. You don't have to lift a finger. They're going to deliver it to you. They're going to get rid of the packaging. They're going to set it up just how you want it. And you're just going to be sitting there probably on some older More Furniture that you already have set up while they work hard and sweat and put in all the work that you don't have to, because a white glove delivery is so legit. Check out all the deals that they have. They're ramping up for a Memorial Day sale where you can save up to 50%. Check it out right now, morefurniture.com. That's More Furniture, MOR furniture.com.
Give me a week 1 swing pass touchdown, Clayton Tune to Kareem Hunt. Hell yes. If that doesn't set State Farm Stadium ablaze, I don't know what will. Man,
we'll see. We're going to have, so prepare yourselves, set the date, probably next Thursday. The schedule release is going to go down according to Adam Schefter, and we'll see who they're opening up the season against. So they opened up the season at home last year against KC.
That worked out well. That was a good game.
How dare you? And then 2021, they were on the road. So it seems like they're probably in line for a road game, right? To open.
I'd love a road game at Philly. What do you think about that? Get that game out of the way. That game, can we get that game
Yeah.
as far along the season as possible? If that game is early, it's gonna be
What you're
rough.
trying to do is you're trying to dampen my day out here at the MGM, the
I'm
BetMGM
let's
Sportsbook.
see.
I had a great
We've
day. I came out here,
talk
I
about
parked
the
my
jersey.
car, I
Okay.
went to the team shop.
Yeah.
I was a good husband and provider. I didn't spend all of our money at the team shop, even though I wanted to. I wanted
Nice.
to get every new jersey that was on sale, but I bought my son. It's going to be
Let's see
2
it.
in June. I bought him his first Cardinals, his first jersey overall. I got him his first one. This is like when a D1 athlete shows which team he's going to, which program.
Okay.
I got my son, Kyler Murray.
Oh, that's adorable.
Red jersey.
Nice.
There it is.
Hell yeah.
Look at
Protect
that.
the nest.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's got the legit replica protect the nest.
Somebody sign that kid.
I know.
We need him. He
He's
needs
gonna be
to
the coolest
in the
kid
room.
in daycare with that.
Love that kid.
Gonna be throwing stiff arms. He's gonna be
people
running the option.
It's gonna be
unbelievable.
I think Hudson's first jersey was David Johnson, and it did not end well from there. I think I bought that for him after the 2016 season.
Who wouldn't?
And then at that point, David was never the same again. So that was unfortunate. But great choice. Pick up your red or your white jersey, your black jersey. I can't.
They only
wait to
had the
see
red,
those.
by the way.
Okay.
They only had the red and toddlers. They had the white. They had the red as far as the adult version.
Toddlers.
Yeah. But the white Kyler, the white Buddha, even the white D Hop, those go pretty hard.
They do.
Super clean.
I can't wait. Seriously, I'm not saying this tongue in cheek. It would make me kind of sad when I would go to games last year and we'd be on site and doing a bunch of fun stuff, and I'd see those old jerseys and I'm like, God, Cardinal fans deserve so much better. So I hope people are active in getting these new jerseys, because I'm not being a shill for the Cardinals. I just think they look way better. They're just much more aesthetically pleasing. So I haven't decided. I'm gonna pick up a white one. I don't know who that's gonna be yet. Not a ton of options right now, but feel good regardless about picking.
You were kind of throwing shade on BJ Ujulari picking 18 on social media.
Well, I liked it initially, and then I was kind of walking that back a little bit.
Yeah.
Because there's a player, I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. He plays receiver at the collegiate level, and he plays in the Big Ten for Ohio State, coincidentally, Paris Johnson Jr.'s teammate. His name's Marvin Harrison Jr., and he's the second coming of Randy Moss combined with Larry Fitzgerald, and his collegiate number is 18. So a lot of people, real quick, I was surprised. A lot of people, when I put that tweet out, said he can have 11 if he comes here. Could you believe that? A lot of people said like 5 to 7 people were like,
blasphemous.
He's earned 11. Let him have 11. I'm like,
he's earned it.
Give him a share of the fucking.
Look, he's gonna have a couple options, right? He's gonna have a couple options. One, we'll see. 2 could become available. Hollywood's in a contract year.
That'd be sweet.
It depends on what they'll probably pick up the club option on Buddha. 3 could be available. Rondell Moore, where's 4 could be available. Matt Prater, where's 5. James Conner, where's 6. 9, Isaiah Simmons.
Oh my God. All the single digit next off season, the single digits, friends, are gonna be set ablaze. I like this. Rick James in the chat. Johnny should get a custom made Whippler Cardinal jersey. That's, what sucks, Rick, is who went to the Browns? Joshua Dobbs, who was stolen from the Cardinals, DTR, and Luke Whippler. Those 3 players, if you would have asked me in early March to now, I would have said all 3 are going to be Cardinals. And
you would have thought that Johnny covered the Browns. Hey, these guys are going to your team.
They're elite. All the Browns players are going to be like, how good is Luke Whippler, Johnny? What do you know? And I'm going to be like, I guess he's not very good.
Right. Short arms, apparently. Great juggler, though.
I could
relate. Stand-up community as well.
DTR going 1 pick behind Clayton Tune. Something to watch. Or maybe it's not.
That's where you trust your scouting, right? That's where you trust. And then you look at the tape, and obviously we've seen more because we're in Pac-12 country. We see DTR play a lot. He was like Tune, where he was around forever at UCLA. But I think Tune, when you realize, and he was a distant second as far as the athleticism, but he was the second most athletic quarterback at the combine, including DTR, who was there that you spoke to.
I did.
You take the athleticism plus just a little bit more touch in a little bit more polished of a passer. The only thing that you wish you'd see more from Tune is rip it a little bit more.
Maybe that's the offense, though, because you know what? Justin Herbert wasn't allowed to do that at Oregon, too. So it could just be a product of that. I like this in the chat. Michael saying, let our boy go old school, take 88 like his dad, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. Wouldn't hate that. Something tells me, though, he's probably going to want his own legacy. I've watched a little bit of his tape recently, and I know I shouldn't because it's only going to set me up for heartache. He is so fucking good.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. First of all, they took him out of the Georgia game. They beat Georgia and they win the national championship if he doesn't get taken out. He is the best college receiver. I think he's better than Jamar Chase. He's the best collegiate receiver since Calvin Johnson or Fitz or somebody like that. He's in that
Johnson
category.
Wasn't even playing in like a pass first offense.
It was Georgia Tech.
Yeah. It's like, what does he have to prove next year? It's really going to be fascinating.
Him under contract now. God, we're gonna have a tracker.
But that's the thing.
Season.
It's like people get lost. You know, when you and I are talking and we're doing these mock drafts, it's like PFF Simulator. You can only do it where the Cardinals are picking 1-1, right, and 1-2. It's like if they're faced with having 1-1, you have to have the conversation about Caleb Williams. But like legitimately, Cardinal fans, as the roster sits and what they can add, like the Marvin Harrison Jr. Dream, that's the ultimate one right there.
It's so hard to get a top 3 pick too. Like we watched 7 straight losses. We lost 7 straight to end the season last year, and they barely got in. We were gifted the remember that whole thing? We could do a whole complete show on that. We probably will, audio only, of the fact that they were saved the last week of the season and they got the 3rd overall pick, which led to the bounty, which could turn into Marvin Harrison Jr., the trickle-down effect, how the franchise could have changed that day. Really fascinating stuff. We've had a banner week. We're decompressing after the draft, but in the best possible way with all of you here on the PHNX Cardinals podcast. We're back on Monday. If you guys are in the area, head on out to BetMGM Sportsbook. Say hello to Bo. Play a little bags. We're going to cheer on the Phoenix Suns tonight. We're going to manifest a victory, Bo Brock, by hook or by crook. Bo's going to put on his Suns jersey.
Number 1 for the Suns going crazy tonight.
That's right.
That's the next jersey right there. Some D-Book.
Ooh, man, yeah, the Black Valley jersey's the best jersey in existence right now. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your podcast. For Bo Brock, producer Jacob, I'm Johnny Venerable. We'll see you Monday.